This is Patricia Raskin Positive Living on News Talk 630, WPRO, and 99.7 FM. The program that brings you practical strategies and positive solutions to help you live the kind of life you really want. To speak with Patricia and her guest, call 438-WPRO or toll free at 1-800-321-WPRO. Now, here's Patricia Raskin.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Patricia Raskin Positive Living. I am Patricia Raskin, and I have a little bit of a different twist of a show for you today. You're going to hear from me, Patricia, and you're going to hear a lot. A lot of really good stuff. And we're going to get a dialogue going here. I've also brought on my dear friend and colleague and consummate professional and PR person in Rhode Island, Nancy Thomas, who's the president of Tapestry Communications. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Patricia. How are you?
And Nancy, I want to tell you how this happened. For those of you who kind of believe that things happen for a reason, I do. And I'm going to have Keith join us too. Hello, Keith Anderson.
Hi, Patricia.
Our wonderful producer engineer.
It's that great voice I hear all the time.
That's right. This morning, out of the blue, comes in Projo an op-ed piece that I sent to them maybe a month ago.
Right.
I'd say about a month ago. Mm-hmm. And Nancy, who is my eyes and ears in PR, because she reads everything every day from cover to cover, particularly Projo and many other Rhode Island publications. And she texts me like at 8 o'clock, yeah. Your op-ed piece is in. I said, really? I said, what did they cut? She said, nothing. Mm-hmm. I said, really? So it's very timely because there's been a lot of talk about positivity, and Pollyanna, what's Pollyanna, and what are different organizations doing. We know that the foundation, Rhode Island Foundation, right, is putting out a positive campaign. So I have a few things I'd like to say, folks, and I would really love it if you would call in and give your opinion. So let me tell you where I sit. For those of you who have already classified me as Pollyanna.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, right. I'm going to read you the definition. This is I think it's from Webster's. This is what Webster says about Pollyanna. For our listeners, it says, Pollyanna is a noun. It's an excessively cheerful or optimistic person. Here's another definition. Pollyanna is unreasonably or illogically optimistic. And then another one by Webster says, let's see if there's anything else. Oh, you're being foolishly or blindly optimistic. Or you have a tendency for people to agree with positive statements describing them. All right. Okay. Let me tell you where I sit, guys.
Do you think that's you? I don't think that's you.
No, I don't.
No, I don't either.
No, I really don't. But I want our listeners to know this. Now, Keith, you've known me for the last couple of years. I mean, I used to be on Sundays. I'm now here. Would you describe me, Keith, as Pollyanna?
Not even close, Patricia.
Now, that doesn't mean that I don't look at the positive side. So let me tell you what I do, and let me tell you my humble beginnings with all of this. What I do is I look at the situation. I look at what it is in its negativity, in its rawness, and I say, what can we do about this? What can we do? Where's the hope? Where's the light? Because if you look at that door and it's totally black, you're going to go and hide and do nothing. And you'll get nothing. So I've had plenty, more than my share of experiences that haven't been so positive. And I've had circumstances that haven't been so positive. But what helps me move on and move past them is that I look at what is working. So here's what I want to say. When we look at everything in terms of statistics, for example, and Nancy, I'm going to talk about marriages. So we hear about relationships. Well, there's 60% divorce rate. There's 50% divorce rate. Okay, all right. But there's also 50% or 40% of people who are happy.
Right, right.
We don't hear about that.
No.
We don't hear about it. It's not talked about. I particularly and purposefully, I spend time with people who move in that direction. I love being around positive couples because that's what I'm looking for, is that incredible synergy. Now, you can't have it if you can't see it or believe that it's there. And it is there. Now, I'm not saying that all the other things don't happen. They do happen. But, we have a choice. Do we want to have conflict and drama and trauma? Or do we want to have peace and hope and light? I don't know if you call that Pollyanna, but that's where I sit. Mm-hmm. And Nancy, I'd like to get your view. And callers, we would love to have you call in. I'd love to get your thoughts about this. The number here is 438-WPRO-9776 or 800-321-WPRO-9776. Go ahead.
Well, Patricia, I think if any of your readers haven't seen the op-ed in today's paper, the title of which is "Don't Forget What's Right About Rhode Island." Right. And I think we know. I mean, we certainly know more than we want to know about what's negative in Rhode Island and the things that need to be fixed, and certainly a state that's facing its challenges and tribulations. But, I look at it more as, statistics. You can, like you said, you can look at a statistic in any one of ways. It's 60% this, or is it 40% that, which is still, depending on your own perception of the problem. But I look at it more of what do you bring as an individual to a problem or to looking at a situation? And if you have a phrase that you turn obstacles into opportunities. Yeah, so when there is an obstacle and a problem that needs fixing, is it positive to bring sort of a positive person to that problem or a negative person to that problem? I mean, who's going to have the most success?
I think it's a choice of how you want to live your life. Mm-hmm. Keith, what do you think? I want you to weigh in. I want your opinion.
When I was younger, I was a very negative person, and I had a lot of negativity around me, and all my friends were negative. In the last 10 years of my life, I've made a positive change, and mentally, I wake up every day. I do a lot of smiling. When I talk to people, I smile. I say, "How are you doing?"
But what difference has that made in your life,
It's
Keith?
made all the difference in the world. It's a lot easier to work through problems when you're positive than it is when you're negative as well.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think, again, and I'll give you an example. I'm a baby boomer. And if you looked at me statistically, I shouldn't be really doing what I'm doing because I'm over that bell curve. And yet I'm operating as someone probably younger than me, not because I'm trying, but because this is my energy level and this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So if I read a book about where I should be, then I think we have to look individually at where people are. And, folks, I'm a little bit skewed positive because I interview the most amazing people on the planet who've overcome such adversities and such obstacles. And now they're creating foundations and they're doing amazing things. I mean, you wonder how these people are still standing. And one of the people actually you brought to me, Nancy, mm-hmm. Mike Cooley.
Oh, Mike was here last week. Yeah.
He was on my Positive Business Show on AM 790.
Right.
An amazing guy. He told a story. Mm-hmm. The name of his book is Rock Bottom.
Rock Bottom.
From the streets to success. Mm-hmm. Right? And he started out in gangs, in inner city
terrible,
gangs.
Abusive situation.
Terrible.
All sides of the family with no hope in his life for him to be where he is.
He is now the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. Mm-hmm. He has done extremely well. And one of the things he said on the show was, when I was in the mailroom, I saw myself as a CEO. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's what you vision. He also told a story that I thought was fabulous, that he went to a college and he was speaking. No, I know what it was. The professor told Mike's story without using his name to the students. And the professor said, what do you think happened to Mike? And the students said, he's dead. Mm-hmm. The professor brought Mike into the classroom and said, we want you to meet Mike Cooley. And they were shocked.
Yeah.
Disbelief. This was the guy that by all accounts, with everything he'd been through, should have been shot, killed.
Right. And they were intrigued by him. And it's like, how did you get up and out? What made the difference?
And he's right from Rhode Island. He's from here.
Right from Rhode island. Mike's an incredible inspiration. Spends all his time now when he's not a CEO and traveling around the world talking to students and giving back. And I think that's key, Patricia, what you're talking about. Is living your passion, and you're fortunate. I'm somewhat fortunate to be employed doing what we're passionate about.
Now, that doesn't come without its challenges when you're doing what you love, but it does make a huge difference when you're doing what you love and what your calling is. Folks, I have a feeling that you have opinions, and we'd love to hear them. So give us a call. Tell us how you've turned something around, or tell us, what you're thinking. And the number is 438-WPRO, And the number is also 800-321-WPRO-9776. Now, let me say this. It doesn't mean you can't call and say something that's bothering you or upsetting you, but I'd like you to tell us, how do you think we can turn it around? Because if all we look at is, isn't this awful and isn't that awful, it doesn't get us anywhere. So I do want to say something, Nancy. I want to give you some credit here. In my article, I write about someone's quote.
Oh.
And it's actually your quote. And what I say here is that I have asked colleagues who are from our state, Rhode Island, why they stay here. And one person said this, and that person was Nancy Thomas. And here's what she said. Or do you want to read it?
Oh, I'll read my own quote.
Yeah, read your own quote.
Where are we here?
Nothing ever lured me away.
Where are we, Patricia?
Here, you want to read it from here?
Here we go.
All right.
But as a, born and raised here and still here, educated here. So my quote was, nothing has ever really lured me away. I found everything I wanted here: education, culture, music, a good place to raise my children, good educational opportunities for myself and my children, good public universities. I really had no reason to leave, other than sometimes the weather. Now, as I get a little older.
Ditto on that one for me.
I can't imagine where I would go. I believe you can bloom where you're planted. And I do believe that. I really do.
And I mean, and folks, we're not saying that Nancy and I and all of us don't face tough issues. I go through them a lot. But it's if you have that vision, you can make it happen. Now, you have to be realistic. I mean, you can't say, well, I'm going to be a ball player if you don't have that skill.
Right.
But if you're realistic and if you have, some good people behind you and support and a team,
right,
you can make it happen. So take a look today at Projo. If you'd like me to send you the link, just write to me, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. You can Facebook me, Patricia Raskin Positive Radio. You can call in and if you have a comment and you'd like to make it to Keith instead of being on the air, you can do that as well, which is 438-WPRO-9776 or 800-321-WPRO-9776. But I do want to read you something that I wrote here in the article. I wrote, many of the people I interview have overcome amazing obstacles. They're the greatest teachers through their work, their books, and examples. Somewhere along the way, they made a choice to change their life, work through their issues, and be a beacon of light for others. I am not saying that we should gloss over what needs change and improvement, but I am saying that if we complain and blame and criticize with no constructive action, we are not helping anyone and we are stopping forward movement. The media is a critical delivery system of our news, and bad news affects us all, but so does the good news. The world would be a different place if we could spend more time being kinder to each other, inspiring each other, and giving each other hope. I realize that immediate attention can affect change, but I do worry about an environment that is too rich in negativity, and it affects our spirit, our sense of hope, our sense of wonderment, and ultimately personal change. So I'd love to hear from you on that and really get your opinions. Again, my work is about focusing transforming obstacles into opportunities, and I've been very lucky to interview health and lifestyle experts, best-selling authors, celebrities, community leaders. So think about it. Think about all of this impact on you, and we'd love to get your comments. So, again, the number is 438-WPRO-9776, 800-321-WPRO-9776. I think that there's just as much that we can say about this as we can say on the other side. And we'd love to hear it. So do give us a call. Okay, we have Tom on the phone from Portsmouth. Tom, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you folks?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, let me just expound, or at least elaborate a little bit on your perspective. Yeah, no one wants to be a Pollyanna because that's not put it in the real world. But let me just say this. It's easy to be a cynic because it doesn't require any commitment. If you're a pragmatic optimist, which I believe I am and most people are, I think, it requires action. Mm-hmm. And I think that's primarily the simplistic difference between cynicism and optimism. That you feel you can make some difference. It may not come overnight. It may not even come into your lifetime. But the sweet and art of culture is based on humanity's ability to overcome adversity. And I think we all struggle with that individually. I think fundamentally it boils down to what's a part of our family, our culture, and what makes us want to achieve. And I think optimism is at the core of that.
Yes.
Very nice.
So right.
Agreed.
And taking the optimism and putting it into action. And I think, so many problems need people to bring vision. We're talking about visionary leadership, to exert towards a problem. And I was listening to Buddy the other day on Pro, and he was talking about, imagine what it's like to say to the city of Providence, we're going to move the rivers. And everybody was going to say, okay, we're going to move the rivers. And how did that happen? How did Providence get to be the type of sort of transformation and Renaissance city that he envisioned it to be? And it was his ability to provide that visionary leadership and to, you just see his enthusiasm, and it was infectious. And he was able to infect others with that who were able to carry on that vision. So I always say that, Rhode Island is small enough that you can get involved in a problem in your community or even at a statewide level and take that positive energy and talent and skill to help making a change. And for me, that makes me feel very good. It's like a double positive for me to know that I'm contributing.
Tom.
I can make one further point if I can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been calling talk radio since Norm Strickhauser for a long time, 40 years. And I'm a secular humanist, I'm an optimist, and I'm a liberal. It's very hard to call myself a Democrat in the state, like a lot of my Republican friends. I'm myself conservative. We're both in the same pickle. But I think that my own opinion, particularly in talk radio, your venue, your focus, is that most people have very few opportunities to address the issues directly, not only with the people who are perhaps study policy, but even the people who don't call in. And the people say with me, well, why do you call it? You're a liberal. You're not going to get on. You're going to be castigated by the host. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. It's got nothing to do with those other people. For me, it's about not only expressing what I believe is fundamentally an honest point of view, but also that there are many people out there that listen, as you both know, who could say to themselves, oh, I didn't think about it quite that way. Not that I'm an age or you were that minute.
But that's a good thing.
Some people hear something and they realize, oh,
right.
Maybe that's worth thinking about.
And I think, Tom, we're going to have to take a break, but I think that's really what I try to do is open that door so that somebody says, oh, I didn't think about it that way. That's a really good point.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate you calling in, Tom. Thanks so much. And if you'd like to call back, certainly we'll be here. We're going to be here till the top of the 4 o'clock hour before we go to the Dr. Tad hour. You're listening to Patricia Raskin, Positive Living. I'm Patricia Raskin, and I have with me as my co-host today, Nancy Thomas, who is the president of Tapestry Communications. It's a full-service public relations and marketing firm in Rhode Island, and she's a Rhode Island born and bred native, and she's been a great guide to me. I want to thank you publicly for that, Nancy. You really have.
You're a good friend.
And thanks. And we're on right here on News Talk 630 WPRO and 99.7 FM. We're also on the web at 630WPRO.com. Stay tuned. Call in. We'd love to hear your opinion about this whole positivity thing. We're back, and we have just about 1 minute. So in this 1 minute, what we're going to say, I'm Patricia Raskin, host of Patricia Raskin Positive Living, and I have with me today is my co-host, Nancy Thomas, and she is president of Tapestry Communications. We're talking about the whole positivity issue, positivity versus negativity, and of course my show is Positive Living. And there are some things that, Nancy, I know you made a list of things that you love about Rhode Island, but also their challenges. So I'm just going to read a few of the things that you love, and then we're going to take a break. I want you to think about this, our wonderful listeners out there, and listen to these and tell us what you think. And we're going to talk about the challenges too, but we're also going to talk about how can we turn these around. Beaches are things that you love, universities, our entrepreneurial spirit, our arts and culture, our capital city, our restaurants, the people, Newport, the ability to change, diversity.
Right.
So those are some things that you like, and there are challenges with all those things.
Each one of them has a challenge.
And we'd like to hear that from you folks. Call us right after the break. A challenge, and what do you see as something that can turn it around? That's what we'd love to know. And we're going to be right back with you to talk about positivity in Rhode Island, and I'll tell you a few little things about how I got here as well. You're listening to Patricia Raskin Positive Living right here on News Talk 630 WPRO and 99.7 FM. We're also on the web at 630WPRO.com.
Now, here's Patricia Raskin.
Hi, everyone. We are back. And today I'm working with, as my co-host for this hour, Nancy Thomas, who's president of Tapestry Communications, which is a full-service PR and marketing firm here in Rhode Island. Welcome back, Nancy.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yeah, we're talking about this whole idea of positivity, and in Rhode Island, too, as well. And it's timely because my op-ed piece that I submitted to Projo got in this morning. So take a look at that. It's on page 12 of Projo. And it's called What is Right? Right? What is it? You have the title there.
Yes,
it's
I do.
It's called What is
Don't
Right?
Don't forget what's right about Rhode Island.
Right. All right. And we already talked about how it's not being Pollyanna. It's just looking at the other side. And so, Nancy, you wrote down some things you love about Rhode Island. And what we're asking callers is, tell us what you love about Rhode Island. If there's a challenge, tell us about that. What's the challenge you see, but what's the positive that you see as well? So we have both, and we can move towards something that works.
Right. The first
you start,
day,
Nancy.
I started writing down these 10 things because I just found out I was doing the show a couple hours ago, and I said, let me write down some things that I really love about the state. And I found myself struggling to not write the challenge. And then I said, well, I should write the challenge down, because then it gives me an action item instead of to say, oh, isn't this beautiful? Isn't this wonderful?
Well, our beaches would be one.
But what can be improved? So the beaches, the coastline, we have more feet of coastline than any other state in the United States. Our little state, with all of its inlets and outlets, has more coastline than any other place in the United States. And it has its challenges. We've seen the erosion. We've seen Hurricane Sandy, things that have happened like that.
Flooding, cleaning up our beaches.
The pollution. We've had issues with, horrific rain happening very, very quickly, which then causes our beaches to have to be closed because of pollution. And what can we do? I mean, that's a big, huge systemic problem. But what can we do to help, even in a small way, keeping our beaches clean of trash? We used to have trash cans. We don't anymore. Now we get a little baggy thing when we go into the beach. A lot of people don't use them. A lot of people don't carry their trash out. So what can we do as individuals, within our own families, with our friends, to help our beaches stay clean and pristine? And I think we're certainly challenged by sort of global warming, if you will, and we're seeing flooding and things like that in our communities. And there's a lot that we can do at our local level. I live in Cranston. Cranston had a huge flooding problem 2 years ago. And because the citizens took action, and the section that was really flooded out was actually bought up by the federal combination of federal and state funds, so these people could get out of these homes that flooded every time it rained. So
what's your issue, folks? What is it where's the challenge and where's the positive?
Right.
Nancy just gave an example. Give us a call right now. We want to hear from you. 438-WPRO 9776 800-321 WPRO 9776. Give us another one, Nancy.
Well, one of my favorites to talk about is the restaurant industry. It's interesting. I don't think anyone would say that we didn't have some of the finest restaurants, in the world. I mean, if you add Newport to Providence and all of the little outlying places, we just have fabulous restaurants. I come from a little bit of a restaurant family, and the downside of that is we also have more restaurants that open and close in 1 year than any other state in the country. But it shows that people are entrepreneurial, and they're opening businesses, and maybe that didn't work, but maybe they'll open something else. Most people who open and close a restaurant, it won't be their first and their last. They will go to the next thing.
But that's another one you noted here was entrepreneurial spirit.
Entrepreneurial spirit.
I mean, that's one thing.
Absolutely.
When I came here, I am from Connecticut originally, but I lived in the South for 15 years. And when I came back 6 years ago, and I'm a full entrepreneur. I'm not sure I'm an entrepreneur by choice, but I'm doing my calling, and that called me to be an entrepreneur, to do this work because I'm independent. But what I'm saying is that I found there were a lot of people like me here. So it was very easy to find groups of people who are small businesses, entrepreneurs, and who really support each other.
Absolutely. I said to my daughter, if you weren't still living at home, I would never have to cook dinner, because I could go to a networking function. I don't eat a whole lot, so I could graze and go to a networking function almost every night of the week and meet up with 50 to 200 to 300 people who are like me. I'm an entrepreneur, worked 20 years for a large nonprofit corporation, but still a very big business, and have been doing this for 5 years or more on my own. And there's a tremendous amount of support, whether it's a structured business group.
Yeah, now, as you said,
group.
That doesn't make it easy. I mean, it's, because you have ups and downs in terms of clients coming and going. then you have to look at compensations and rates.
Right.
So it's not easy, but there's a lot of support, and it's a state that's really opened for entrepreneurs and small businesses.
It is, and it's changing because people like us have gotten involved and have written the letters that we need to write to say, hey, we need to be more small business friendly.
Yeah.
So that's happened.
Folks, we'd love to hear from you. What's the thing that's a challenge, but that you also love? You know, the yin and the yang. Mm-hmm. We see both in everything. In everything we love, there's a challenge. So please look at that and give us a call right now at 438-WPRO-9776 or 800-321-WPRO-9776. One of the things that I love very much here, but I grew up in a very arts music family, and is the arts and culture.
Right.
And I mean, there's really so much here. You know, whether it's PPAC or it's Trinity or Theater by the Sea or Ocean State Theater Company, and then there's the GAM. I mean, there's so many.
Right. In the arts, the visual art community. I mean, Pawtucket, which is, and I'm originally from Pawtucket, so I can say this. It's sort of, a city that struggles and has been struggling, and now it's a mecca for artists to locate their studios or to live. One of my clients is actually a group called Arts Marketplace Pawtucket, which on September 7th and 8th in the old Armory next to Tolman High School, next to City Hall, I know right where it is, there's 75 artists that will have booths for their that you can go and see the art and also purchase them. This year, we're joined by 50 artists across the street who thought it was really neat.
Wonderful arts community. Look at RISD.
Yep.
I mean, and the wonderful universities that we have here. I mean, very rich for a very little state.
Waterfire, which is a hub of tourism in the state, started as an art installation, something that was supposed to begin and end in maybe a weekend. Yeah. And now it's going around the world. It's in Italy. It's San Antonio. It's everywhere.
And when I think of the arts, when I think about something I want to see, I either stay here, or I might go to New York if it's if it's a big show. But I don't think about, should I go to Boston or should I go somewhere else? I really pretty much stay here unless I really want to see something on Broadway that's happening
and
right
when
now.
you do, you take the train when you go in.
I take the train.
And you just zip out and zip back.
Yes, I do. I don't tackle the traffic.
Right, absolutely.
So, I find there are a lot of wonderful things. And I think the one thing that, and I said it in the article and we've talked about it, is the weather. I find the weather very difficult here.
Yeah, we had a tough July, huh?
Talk about it's schizophrenic.
Yes. I'm hoping for a really great August. I think we need our summer back the way that we used to be.
One day hot, the next day rain, the next day cold, the next day gray.
Right.
I mean, it's I guess it keeps it interesting and challenging. So again, folks, where are you? We know you're out there, and we know that there are things that you love about Rhode Island, but also pose challenges. We're not asking you not to talk about the challenges. We're not saying, but we are asking you to look at what's on the other side of that.
Right.
That's the hook. It's not, everything's beautiful and wonderful and our beaches are so perfect.
Right.
We're saying, no, there's a problem. And what do you see as the hope? That's what we're asking you to do. And I know you can do it. And we'd love to hear from you at 438-WPRO-9776 or 800-321-WPRO-9776. You know, Nancy, I want to share this with our listeners. This is someone that I interviewed on my internet program. And I thought it was so interesting that I put it in my newsletter. And so if anyone would like to have a copy of my newsletter, just write to me, Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. But there's something called Senior Cinema Circle. So if you're fed up with violent and intense and crude films and just, action-packed all the time, there is something now called Senior Cinema Circle, which is dedicated to producing movies for an audience that's usually neglected by Hollywood. They're the only company completely focused on producing and distributing films that seniors will love. And when we say seniors, we're saying baby boomers, 50 plus, and remind them how capable and valuable they are. And just to let you know, that consider the facts that the senior group for the first time is the largest in terms of size and percent of the population. By 2015, people who are age 50 and above will represent 45% of our population. The 55% age group controls more than 3/4 of America's wealth. And boomers and seniors have a net worth 3 times greater than younger generations. So go to seniorcinema.com. And if you want to help change what's happening, then click when you get there on what's called the 1 Million Senior Voices. Fill out the survey that will be shared with executives throughout Hollywood. and join Senior Cinema and James Twyman, who I interviewed, because they are changing the way movies are made. And they're looking for 1 million senior voices. Then they're going to plunk it right down on these Hollywood producer desks. And that's going to make the difference in the kinds of movies that are being produced.
Right.
So again, log on to seniorcinema.com. And again, I interviewed James Twyman, who's the president of Senior Cinema. And he's really working to bring uplifting and inspirational real-life movies that are filled with joy and love.
To our families, too.
To
not
our
just
families.
Seniors, our children that are exposed to this.
Okay, so folks, again, we'd love to hear from you. 438-WPRO, 9776 or 800-321-WPRO 976. And my very specific question is, what do you love about Rhode Island? What's the challenge? But what do you love at the same time? So we want to hear both. And whether it's the people, you talked about entrepreneurship, universities, diversity, healthcare, arts and culture. We would love to hear from you. So definitely do give us a call. I think that's important. And Nancy, you've been here your whole life.
Yes, I have been. And
you haven't left, really. You didn't go to school. You went to school here.
I went to school here, public school in Pawtucket, and to Providence College. After that, my daughters went to URI, both of them. One is just actually completed the bar, sat for the bar, and went to Roger Williams University School of Law. And my other daughter has 1 year left at UMass Boston. So she went up the street a little bit, not too far. And it's interesting, her master's will be in conflict resolution. So I always say that's because I've never won an argument with you yet. And and her mission and goal in life is to work in large HR departments and to help mediate and solve conflicts in the workplace. So.
All right. Okay. Keith, I'm going to put you on the spot. Want to find out, what do you love about Rhode Island and what do you see as a challenge?
Well, Nancy stole what I love the most about Rhode Island, which is all the great restaurants all over the place. No matter where you're at in Rhode Island, you can get some good food, great seafood.
Do you see a challenge?
Well, the challenge is more of a personal challenge because I've been noticing that I'm gaining more and more weight over the last year.
But it's interesting. What I was talking about before was now you've seen the food trucks, the big thing about the food trucks. You can go down a street and see them all show up. But even the food trucks are becoming healthier and they're offering low-fat foods. And why is that? Because consumers asked for it. And maybe it started by, recognizing we have a weight problem or not wanting to be able to afford a gym program or whatever. And we've started to ask for smaller portions or for gluten-free. Gluten-free is a big issue. Yeah. And now, how many restaurants can you go into and ask for a gluten-free menu and not have one presented to you? Most of them are doing that. And if they're not, they should be doing it because it's a good portion of their clientele.
Something else I want to say about positivity that's interesting. In our second hour, I featured Dr. Tad Stokowski, who's founder of Dr. Tad Centers for Integrative Medicine and Healing. And I've had this question several times, and it amazes me. He will come on, and he talks about alternative methods. So people will come on with tremendous chronic problems, and they call in. We have a lot of people who call in, and Keith has seen this because Keith is with us every week. They call in, they come in the studio, and these are folks who, after working with Dr. Tad for maybe 6 or 8 months, are pain-free.
Right,
They're pain-free. They don't have symptoms anymore. There was a woman who slept for years because she had a sleeping disorder, and now she's awake. So I've met a few people, in my off hours when I'm running around the community, and they will say to me, Patricia, is this really for real? And I look at them and I say, what part isn't real? The people who come in, who take the time to come in and say it's changed their life? What don't you get? And it's almost as though people don't believe that something that never worked can work.
Right.
We're almost so programmed for the skepticism that when someone says, wow, I did something different and it worked, people don't believe it even with the testimony. What's your feeling about that, Keith?
Well, I don't know why that people automatically have those kind of. I think that when you look at the television and you look at what you read and you look at the stories that you're being told day in and day out, I think a lot of that is kind of being ingrained in people's brains. They are being taught that. They're being taught that it's not news unless it's something negative, and the top story is always going to be something that's bad that's happening in a town near you.
Nancy?
Yeah, and how many times do we read that in the paper and we think this is just terrible? And then do we take the next step? Do we make a phone call to a legislator, or do we write a letter, or do we try to do something to, we had Tom from Portsmouth, I think it was, who called in, and I hear him. He calls in a lot. And as he said, he's a kind of a positive liberal person. He talks into some maybe conservative talk shows with his perspective. So he just kind of plods away trying to make his impact as one person on the planet can to an issue. So, I encourage people to write. And I even, when I posted your story this morning on Facebook, on my page, and I said, if you have something to say, submit an op-ed to the local newspaper. Yeah. Or, call into a radio station or make your opinion known, because you can, that's how change happens. And it's.
And I think, what the Rhode Island Foundation's trying to do with their positive campaign, and, they've been criticized that it's too positive, and they've used the word Pollyanna. And I think there's two sides to that. I'm not sure that they're saying don't look at the negative at all. Right. I mean, I know that on my program, we tackle tough issues. I mean, we tackle issues that are really difficult, but we have people on that show people solutions. So they walk away and they feel like there's something they can do.
Right. I hope that will be a continuing part of the foundation's campaign, is to say, okay, we inside Rhode Island here, we really love it here. And I don't know a lot of people that hate our state. I really don't. I mean, I know a lot of people who truly do love being here. And there's challenges, no question about it. But what can we do to impact those things and to change them for the better? So that's kind of the second step that I'm hoping to see in that campaign.
All right. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, there's still some time for you to call in with your opinions, your stories. What's worked for you? What's been a real positive for you? What's a challenge you've worked through? And we'd love to hear from you right here on News Talk 630 WPRO and 99.7 FM. And we're on the web at 630WPRO.com. I'm Patricia Raskin for Patricia Raskin Positive Living. And I have with me today Nancy Thomas from Tapestry Communications. She's a full-service PR and marketing firm in Rhode Island, Rhode Island native, and has been a wonderful guide to me during my 6 years back in New England, and specifically here. So thank you, Nancy. And folks, we'd love to hear from you. Call us. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, everyone. We're back. You're listening to Patricia Raskin Positive Living right here on News Talk 630 WPRO 99.7 FM, and we're on the web at 630WPRO.com. I'm here with my great co-host today, Nancy Thomas, who is president of Tapestry Communications, a full-service PR and marketing firm in Rhode Island. Hi, Nancy. Thanks for coming back. We've been talking, Nancy. I have an idea percolating and brewing, folks, and I want to get your opinion. We only have about 3 minutes, so you're going to have to write to me. You're going to have to Facebook me. But one of the things I'd like to do is I'd like to create a show on dating, on positive dating. And here's the way I would set it up. I'd have a co-host who was a male, probably a different age group, just so that we'd have the diversity. And we throw out an issue, like online dating. I mean, there's a million issues, but let's just take that one. And we would talk about what I think, what he thinks, and then we'd have callers call in, and you would share your opinions of your experiences. The only thing is, it's not going to be a B ... end in H session, because again, that doesn't help. You can certainly tell your experience it's not working, but then what would you do differently? What did you learn from this? And then we'll have experts come on who are leaders, national experts in the field of relationship and dating. And so I really am working to put this together fairly soon, and I want your opinion. Is this something you'd listen to? Do you think it's a good idea? That would be great. So just Facebook me, right, Nancy? Right. Patricia Raskin, Positive Radio. And just say, Patricia, I heard you, and I'm for it. I think it's a good idea. Or I've got a suggestion. And it would be an evening show. And that's about all I can say. But I'd love to get your comments about that. And there are a lot of single people out there. There are a lot of issues. And we would talk about the issues and the difficult issues. What are some solutions?
We're 1 million people in Rhode Island, but that is something that you hear, that it's very difficult, especially a little bit older, not among the teens or the 20s, but it's very difficult to meet someone, especially after you've been divorced or widowed or whatever. Like people, there's so much to take advantage of in the state in terms of theater and whatever, but you certainly don't want to go by yourself necessarily. So I think that it's a fantastic idea. I wish you well with it.
What do you think, Keith? Of course, Keith's got to say yes.
Well, when you first told me about it, I thought you were going to have like a radio dating show.
Well, you never know.
Well, that's kind of what it is.
Where you could try to have like contestant 1 meets up to contestant 2.
That's step 2. Okay, that's part
down
2.
the line.
Down the line, right? We got to get this up and running first. So, folks, if you like the concept and we get the ideas out on the table, then we go to the next step. So let me know. Patricia Raskin Positive Radio on Facebook or Patricia at patriciaraskin.com. And thanks so much, Nancy.
Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you for coming on and co-hosting. And thanks, folks, for letting me spread my positivity, bumblebee positivity, through the airwaves here for this hour. And again, write to me, patriciaraskin.com, or Facebook me, Patricia Raskin Positive Radio.